These are the children who are most vulnerable and are the responsibility of government to keep them safe and protected.
A new report shows a record number of children and youth died while in government care in 2021.
The report released Thursday details the deaths of 45 children and youths in Alberta between April and February, and 36 before 2021 was over, with a major factor being the pandemic, which led to online learning, social isolation, food insecurity, housing issues, and substance use. NDP MLA Raki Pancholi and the Children's Services critic says there was no mention of consultation with the families, and there was a disproportionate number of Indigenous children who died.
These are children who are predominantly Indigenous. 80% of the young people and children who have died over the last year are Indigenous, and yet there's no consultation that was done with the families, with Indigenous leaders or elders, and I think that's a glaring absence from the report.
The deaths were in those aged from birth to 23 years old. When it comes to the causes of death in those under 18, 4 were accidental, 3 were natural, 1 was a suicide, and 12 were unconfirmed. 5 accidental deaths were related to accidental drug overdoses. Alberta's child and youth advocate says the government must address the opioid poisoning crisis in Alberta youth and has offered recommendations.
And what we've heard from the advocate is that there's been no progress made by this government in implementing that strategy.
Minister of Children's Services Rebecca Schultz has committed to 6 actions to change this course, including reviewing child intervention contracts. City News reached out to the minister for comment, but we didn't hear back in time for broadcast.
The government has a huge problem with their frontline caseworker workforce. We've seen incredibly high turnover and burnout and caseload numbers, and that's directly within the control of this government, yet there's no mention of how they're going to address that.
The report closes in saying that every death was a tragedy, and the actions being taken now will never take those away. But it's hoped that the steps moving forward will make a positive impact.
Pancholi says there also needs to be more transparency from the UCP so more can be done from outside the government. In Calgary, Taylor Braat, City News.